This year, we're going to get chefs to incorporate surplus foods. I can pretty much incorporate anything on the menu. This is how I feel alive.
Welcome to Better Table Shortcast by bettertable.ca, a place where hospitality leaders can listen, learn, and profit faster. I'm your host, Ben Yeger, and we uncover topics around food, sustainability, and diversity with some of the brightest minds in the tourism and hotel industry. Thank you for joining me. I know you're busy, so we go straight to the point to bring you value during what I believe will be some of the most enriching minutes of your day. Today, we are meeting with a fantastic restaurateur, Meeru Dhalwala, who has been cooking and running the kitchens and menus at Vij's for almost 30 years. They even received a Bib Gourmand designation from the Michelin Guide. Get ready to discover ways to control menu prices, learn why she is organizing events cooking with surplus food, and guess some of the best business tips. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Bon appétit! Meeru, thank you so much for meeting with me today at your restaurant in Mount Pleasant. To start off, what's your favorite food?
For me, it would be Indian vegetarian food. The very first thing I learned to cook, it's kidney beans and rice. It's like a chili curry, and then on the side I would have the cauliflower.
What inspired you to open your first restaurant, and what were the initial challenges you faced when starting that business?
I moved to Vancouver because I got married, and Vikram had just opened up a 14-seat restaurant. My background is in economic development. I was working in Washington, D.C. I moved here, and the intention was never to work in the restaurant, but I was very madly, deeply in love. So I was spending all of my days while I did not have a work permit with Vikram at his new restaurant, and even that turned into love at first sight. So it was an accidental career. I have a very hard time expressing how much I love the food that I create with my hands. I don't have words for it. When I come up with a recipe, it's so emotional. I'm not thinking about what spices I want to use. What I'm thinking about is what story do I want to tell and what color do I see? And then it's about the ingredients. I even imagine the color of the soil if it's a vegetable.
Where do you see your business in the next 5 years?
We're going to be 30 years old next year in September of 2024. That's like dog years. Like, we are old. Still a very popular restaurant in Vancouver. We have managed to remain current. So 5 years, I really hope that other restaurants and food establishments want to come to me and learn. Don't go big with the money. Go big with your ideas and your own talent.
And how do you balance offering high quality with managing food costs?
I'm constantly playing with food and labor. I'm not an expert at food and labor costs. What we'll end up doing, for example, with the meat, I'd much rather get a hormone-free beef, but get a different cut. Not perhaps get the tenderloin, but use a cheaper cut from the same cow. Same beautiful cow, but get the cheaper cut, and my hands can create such a delicious recipe so that my customers are not paying $55, they're paying $33 for that same dish. I really want to make sure that younger people feel welcome at Vij's, even if your wallet can only afford it, say, once every 6 months. I don't want Vij's to be one of those places that sells organic food and everything is local and everything is organic, but everything is also $55.
And I know you've been involved with Food Stash, a non-profit organization rescuing food. And you're partnering with them for the event Joy of Feeding to bring awareness on how to reduce food waste. What is a Joy of Feeding, and why is it important to you?
The Joy of Feeding, the whole idea came about in 2010. I was introduced to UBC Farm. It's the only farm left in Vancouver, and there was a dinner there, and I am talking so much to various groups and organizations about cooking with local ingredients, but it was a very Caucasian group. And then I thought, who's really cooking? And I thought, my people are cooking at home. And by my people, I don't mean Indians. By my people, I mean the immigrants of the world. People who are from outside of here. The ones who are trying to cherish and retain the culture they left behind through the cooking. They're the ones who are actually cooking at home. So for me, Joy of Feeding, it's about you. It's about culture. It's about multiculturalism. and doing something positive for agriculture, seafood, fish, and climate change. It's called the joy of feeding because I'm a chef, and sometimes I come home and the last thing I want to do is cook. It is not the joy of cooking. Even when I'm trying a new recipe, sometimes even though I'm romanticizing my ideas, but when I can't get that recipe right, it is not joyful at all. The joy of feeding is all about home cooking. It's not about professional cooking. If there is that woman from Syria, and she's making eye contact with you and with her daughter and with her husband, with her hands, she feeds you and gives you Syrian kibbeh. And you take it from her hands and you lock eyes and smile and then you eat her kibbeh. The next time you hear Syria on the news, you're going to feel a personal connection to it. So this year we're going to get chefs to incorporate surplus foods. I'm calling it surplus food versus rescued food because rescued food has just this connotation that doesn't quite do it justice. And as if rescued food is for poor people and surplus food is for everybody. In terms of meats and produce, I can pretty much incorporate anything on the menu. This is how I feel alive. I am so concerned about the climate crisis right now. I'm afraid that people are going to not do anything thinking that somebody else is doing something. And my best way to not be overcome with my own fear and anxiety is to feel like I am doing the best and the most that I can.
This is so inspiring. Can you share your approach to reducing food waste in your restaurant? And are there some specific practices you've been implementing?
My kitchen staff, all women, all from India. And when you come from a country that has experienced war and famine, you don't waste food. So at Vij's, from the kitchen level, our food waste is minimal. And if there's even a quarter of a cabbage left, it's treasured and saved. Everything is put away in little boxes and little containers. Everything is saved. Our food waste comes from the customer side. And that's what I'm tackling more and more is food waste on the customer, the dining side of the room.
Yeah, plate waste can be such a big impact in a restaurant operation. We met last month at the Cooks Camp in Pemberton, organized by Chefs Table Society of BC, where you were leading a panel around women in the industry. Do you think it is important to have more female in the industry?
It's important to have more female leaders in the industry if females want to be leaders in the industry. I think the industry is changing, and I think for the better. I'm very proud to bring myself as a woman here. I don't want to act like a man in order to succeed. Come on, let's work together. My mom and dad, they were war children, refugee camps. If you haven't seen it, then you don't understand the real privilege. The privilege is not you're a white male. The real privilege is the opportunities that the first world gives us.
And as a female entrepreneur in the restaurant industry, what advice would you give to other women looking to start their own restaurant?
Most importantly, figure out for yourself who you are as a person. Who are you? Do you prefer to work alone? Or do you think you're going to work better in a partnership with somebody, right? And who knows, once you die, you're probably not going to be a human being again. Let's just be clear, none of us really know what's going to happen. All you know is that right now you are a human being. And I don't mean to say this as a very cheesy thing. I'm actually saying it's very simple and real. You're a human being. So I say to women right now, ask yourself, who are you as a human being? And what makes your heart and your brain feel alive? Pursue that positive story of yours. So figure out who you are and don't cave. My business is so connected to who I am because when I have to work 70, 80 hours a week, I don't wish to feel like a workaholic. I'm doing it for myself, for something I love to do. And that's really important when you run a small business.
Totally agreed. And sustainability and diversity are growing trends. What other trends do you see in the hospitality and restaurant industry right now?
There's two different trends coming up. One trend, I'm seeing bigger corporations come in and buy independently run restaurants. Restaurants are getting eaten up now. Small, local, independent restaurants, because it's so hard to run as a business, it takes a lot. It gets hard. And so I'm afraid we're going to get eaten up. The flip side of it is maybe we will see more small restaurants of love that are made, from the self. And so maybe we might see more of that. So they're two opposite trends, right? I do think that people are going to care about where the food comes from, especially younger people.
And what's your favorite book or podcast?
I have a book club. I loved War and Peace by Tolstoy. If I ever am told that I have a disease or I've got cancer and I've got 6 months left to live, my plan is to read War and Peace again. I actually save all of my New Yorker magazine. That's actually where I get a lot of my ignitions of thought from.
And what would be one key message you'd like our listeners to remember?
If you're responsible for something, and I learned this from my own mother, number 1, be firm. Number 2, be kind. And number 3, be respectful. In that order. With whatever you choose to do, even with yourself, be firm once you set your mind to it. Even with my staff, be firm. Your children, my partner, be kind then, and then be respectful.
I have been so inspired by Meeru. I'm so excited for you to learn from other leaders, and I hope to see you next time. Better Table Shortcast is brought to you by bettertable.ca. We help hotels and restaurants control food costs and increase food and beverage profits. Thank you so much for listening. Want to boost your restaurant profitability? Apply for the Van City Grant today. If you want to apply, simply visit bettertable.ca/apply. That's better, BETTER, table, TABLE, bettertable.ca/apply. If you love the show, please leave us a review. We are so proud to bring you curated insights to help the tourism and hospitality industry thrive. The best compliment you can give us is by screenshotting today's show and tagging us on LinkedIn at bettertable.ca and at Ben Liege. We are obsessed with swags, so don't be surprised if you want to send you some. And remember, nothing bad happens when hospitality leaders make more money.